In times of antiquity, specifically year of our Lord 2001, a book was published called Getting Things Done by David Allen. It had a simple idea. Here's all the stuff that comes at us. People asking us to do stuff, chores, calls, daily events, weekly events, monthly, annual events, etc. Just all of the stuff that we have to deal with on a regular basis. That stuff comes into our metaphorical inbox, like our life. Right, so the first thing we have to do is kind of sort it. Is it actionable? Now, hang on, this is going somewhere, I promise. If it's not actionable, like if it's a piece of information, then we either file it for reference or incubate it in our someday maybe file or just eliminate its trash, right? We don't need it. And if it is actionable, then it goes into, projects and planning. What's the next actionable step? Delegating, doing it, putting on the calendar. And this is a great system for, getting things done, organizing what has to be done, putting information that you need into various reference folders, files, the someday maybe file or whatever, or just eliminating it and throwing it in the trash. Here's the problem, and tell me if you're like this as well. But this little folder here, this little folder here, this reference folder here, mine is, I feel like at this point, is the size of worlds, bigger than libraries from the times of antiquity. I save bookmarks, I save websites, I save blog posts, I save research papers, I save tweets, I save podcasts, I save books to read, I save random ideas that I have. But more and more now, it feels like it just kind of goes into a supermassive black hole. Like whatever idea I have, I just put in the folder and it goes never to be seen again. We have too much stuff coming into our lives to be able to manage effectively. Now, you might have heard of Build a Second Brain. So it's this course by this guy that's apparently really popular. A lot of people really enjoy it. Tiago Forte. And I don't really know the entirety of the system. I never took the course, but a lot of people are very happy with it because it helps you organize all of the digital stuff that we have into actionable, useful information that you can access on demand. And I feel like each generation, we have our own Build a Second Brain or Getting Things Done or whatever. We all have this book or plan or course that promises to get our life in order and help us deal with all the stuff that's coming at us. And they're not bad. I mean, they work if you work them. But that's the problem, is you have to do the stuff for it to work. But when I started figuring out what large language models were doing, what these ChatGPTs, etc., were doing, one of the first ideas that I had, maybe not the first, but one of the first ideas that I had was this would be really good to build a system like this, or a system like the second brain. And I was kind of hoping somebody would build it. And there were a few people that tried something like this, but nothing too amazing that I've personally experienced. But today, in one day, 2 different products popped up on my radar by 2 different companies promising to do something like this. And those companies, you may have heard of them. Now, one of them could be OpenAI. The Context Connector feature coming to ChatGPT could be powered by Weaviate. So please keep in mind, so this is rumor. We don't know for sure, but I know for a fact that OpenAI has a few things like this in the works. We'll cover them in a separate video, but OpenAI is kind of like mind melding with other companies that do this sort of organizational stuff, and they're giving them their, ChatGPT powers to help create stuff like this to organize. So one is a universal search across all of your apps. Potentially, this might be kind of the backbone for OpenAI's Context Connector. Again, that's rumor, speculation. We don't know. But there's another company that is creating something similar. The name of their product is Notebook LM, and Notebook LM gives you a personalized AI grounded in the information you trust. It allows you to collaborate with virtual research assistants. You upload all of the stuff that relates to you, meeting notes, project files, PDFs, whatever. Copy text, stuff from Google Drive, and it allows you to use that as kind of your database to read, to ask questions, with AI as a thought partner helping you at every turn. And it's getting some traction. In fact, Tiago Forte, or is it Fort? Tiago Fort, author of Building a Second Brain, looks like that's what, he's like, this is good. He's in favor of this. And it's free, it's good, it's by a trustworthy company that you've heard of. That company is Google. This is Google. The website is notebooklm.google.com. And here's where we have to talk, because Google, there's things I love about Google. There's things that I find ever so slightly frustrating. Google has a Wikipedia page of discontinued Google services. These are all of the things, all the projects that Google created, that people signed up to use, that they enjoyed, that they liked, that later Google decided to just cut. Google Plus, Google Hangouts, Google Goggles, Google Stadia, I think that was the video game one. Last year, I transferred all of my domains to Google Domains because I figured it might be easier than dealing with GoDaddy. Guess when they decided to kill Google Domains? A few months after I transferred all of my domains there. So all that is to say that I've been hurt before. I've promised not to fall in love again, but here I am again. So Google, fool me once, shame on you. But you're not going to fool me again. I feel like I know how this story ends. But still, I'm very interested to try this thing out. So we're going to open up a new notebook and I'm going to try to organize some of the studies that I read on this channel and off of it in AI studies. So that's going to be my first notebook. All right, so we have some sources. Let me see if I can just so I can't just drag it in there, but I can click add source and let's add PDF. All right, so I've added this PDF file, that PDF file being the thing that for me, and I think maybe a lot of other people, maybe some of you on this channel kind of started this whole train, Sparks of AGI, the Microsoft paper that had this one famous line where it said, we believe that it could be reasonably be viewed as an early version of AGI, which of course, that's the line that Elon Musk used in that lawsuit against OpenAI saying, guys, you said all agreements with Microsoft are null and void when you guys reach AGI. Now, this is a massive paper, 155 pages, and somewhere in there, there's a needle. There's a needle in this haystack, or rather a nail, or more specifically, a nail, some eggs, and a Coke can, Coke bottle. You probably have no idea what I'm talking about. There was some problem in that experiment that I vaguely remember. I don't know which page it was on. I just remember it had something to do with nails and eggs and stacking things. Let's see if I can use those sort of very vague keywords to find that thing in that paper. I'm going to ask, what was the result of the test with the nail and the eggs? Let's see. We'll click go and Google gets to thinking. So I'm not sure what this is running on. Maybe this is Gemini. So I looked around, so I can't quite nail which model they're using, but each source can contain up to 200,000 words. But within seconds, this might took less than 5 seconds, I would say. It nails the response. So good job, Google. I'll give you a little thumbs up there. The result of the test with the nail and the eggs was that the nail could be balanced on the bottle without rolling off. That's beautiful. And look, it has citations 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it presents the text from the actual paper. And if I click on them, it actually brings up the exact specific thing in that text that I'm looking for. All right, this is getting exciting, and it's going to hurt when they kill this thing off, because I feel like it's going to be good. So I don't know when they release this, but it is still very experimental. So I am seeing that the citations are a little bit wonky. I don't think they really link to what they're supposed to link to, but it did answer the question. What is impressive here is that that's a kind of a needle in a haystack question, because that is buried somewhere deep within the document. Let's try another one. Was GPT-4 able to code video games? So it's thinking about it. So that was about 3 seconds, I would say. The answer is GPT-4 was able to code video games. It was able to write a 2D tank war game in HTML with JavaScript using a vague description. Any other games? Yes, there was a 3D game with multiple avatars, etc., etc. Next, I added a document from Google Drive that I had. AI learns to play Pokemon. And we're going to say, tell me about AI and trauma. So there's somewhere in there that was talking about how AI with reinforcement learning can experience something that's similar to trauma. It's kind of tongue in cheek, but there are certain things that the AI will learn to avoid if it kind of goes poorly for it. So now we have 2 documents, one a 155-page file, and it finds exactly the thing that it was supposed to. Again, the interface is a little wonky. This thing pops up with kind of a summary and key topics that I can go down, which is good. But here's that exact thing that I was looking for, that exact passage. I was able to find it within just a few seconds by typing in something vague like, tell me about AI and trauma. All right, next I'm going to upload the Elon Musk versus OpenAI, that lawsuit that's happening. And one more, this is the Apple's new vision model that beats GPT-4 for some use cases. So now we have, hundreds and hundreds of pages here. So this first one is 155 pages. The lawsuit is close to 50 pages. So we have, quite a bit of information here. So, and it's reflecting here, it's saying 4 sources. So we're going to say in and we're going to put the name of this OpenAI versus Musk versus Altman complaint. In that document, there was a quote about AGI and ChatGPT, or I should say GPT-4. And I'll say, does that quote appear in the Sparks of AGI document? So let's see if that works. So it answers GPT-4 is not AGI, but an early form of it, and provides 10 citations. So it didn't quite nail it. So I don't think it's actually looking through both papers and finding what I'm referencing exactly. So it's able to pull information from the papers, but not quite like compare and contrast them, see where they're similar, if there's a quote that appears in both. So I'm going to ask, which source does a quote GPT-4 can be thought of as an early AGI? Where does that appear? And this, it absolutely nails. So it goes through all of my sources, which is quite a bit. And again, all these searches, they take a few seconds, very, very fast. It finds the quote in the Sparks of AGI paper, and it finds that same exact quote in the lawsuit. Right here it is. In this regard, Microsoft's own researchers have publicly stated that, and there's the quote. Here's Google DeepMind, their SEMA project. So this is a blog post that they did. Now you can't pull URLs into the notebook, but you can save this, basically just save it as a PDF and then upload it to your notebook LM. So there it is, a generalist AI agent for 3D virtual environments. Basically this page just saved as a PDF and uploaded here. All right, now that's uploaded and we've selected all of these, we're going to go ahead and ask, what skills did Zima learn? Zima learned 600 basic skills, including navigation, object interaction, and menu use. And I think that took about a second to complete. All right, so far we went over how to retrieve specific information, kind of having a back and forth question and answer with it, with your own documents. Next, let's ask for something a little bit more complicated. Let's ask it to, from the paper Sparks of AGI, gather the 5 most interesting findings and write them in an engaging tweet. 5 exciting discoveries about GPT-4, a potential spark of AGI. Can write Shakespearean poetry and code, understand human emotions, and dispels misinformation. And hashtag. Pretty good. How about this? Write a poem about Zima and explains what it does and why it's important. So it took a little bit longer. It took about 5 seconds, I would say. All right. So when I asked for a poem, it did not consult my documentation. Okay. So it kind of failed that one. Let's try it again. I want to make sure I have it selected. Let's see. Zima is this one. It's called Sema with an S. Okay, so I apologize. I'm being exceptionally thick today. It's late here in my defense. It did answer correctly the first time I asked it. Interestingly, it knew what I was talking about. But the second time, it kind of hallucinated something from its memory. So it's a made up response. It didn't draw from my knowledge base. Keep in mind. So again, this is experimental. So it's not. It makes sense that it's not 100% accurate. But let's try it again. And now, Wes, let's actually write the correct name of the model in there. That might help. Write a poem about Sema. For those of you that don't know, so Sema is basically this kind of a generalist AI agent for 3D virtual environments. When they say 3D virtual environments, what they mean is video games. So basically it plays Goat Simulator 3. That's what Google DeepMind is doing. In case you were wondering, they're making AI play Goat Simulator 3. All right, so here's the poem, Sema, a versatile agent. I won't read this whole thing, but I gotta say, it nails it. It nails a lot of important points. Specifically this, through keyboard and mouse, it takes control, exploring worlds, achieving its goal. This sentence to me really shows that this thing understood the essence of what that paper was about, or that blog post in this case. It really grokked it, right? Because that was the big breakthrough that Sema did. Because it wasn't doing it by interacting with the game through some shortcut like an API or something like that. It was using a keyboard and mouse, or at least a virtual keyboard and mouse. It interacted with it the way that you and I would. It played the game in the same input that you and I would. That was the big thing to understand. That was probably one of the more important things to really understand about that paper. It was the first of its kind that achieved that good of a result using a keyboard and mouse. In languages embrace, it finds its power, understanding instructions hour by hour. Brilliant. As training worlds expand, so does its scope. A generalist agent surpassing hope. All right, I gotta say, very good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. This is very good. Not just this, but so pretty much everything that I've seen. The few errors I've encountered are largely because either I didn't prompt it correctly, or in one case I, misspelled the name of the thing. Although I guess it would be better if it said, hey, buddy, there's nothing about Zima in your documents instead of, writing a poem about what is Zima? Okay, I looked it up. Zima is an actual, it's like hard cider of some sort or whatever. Who cares? I don't care. But I'll go ahead and say it. NotebookLM is good. I downloaded Chat with RTX. So that was that NVIDIA thing. If you have an RTX NVIDIA card, you can download Chat with RTX. And the promise was that you'd be able to do exactly what we're doing here, right? You have all your documents in here. You're able to chat with them, but you can do it locally. You can do it on your local Windows PC. And I thought it was kind of cool because you get to use your own sort of graphics card, your GPU, to be able to do that. There were problems. This thing was massive, massive, massive. And for me personally, you know what? It didn't work well. Maybe I didn't understand how to use it, but I tried to find other places where people had great results with it. I just couldn't find it. So that fell flat. This thing nails it. It's finding the needle in a haystack in massive documents, right? 155 pages in one PDF, right? And even when I have 5 or 6 uploaded, I'm just able to select all of them and it will find the thing that I'm looking for. It's able to output responses in whatever format I want, whether it's a poem, bullet points, whatever. So I'll say list in bullet points the findings in Apple's realm, right? That's the other thing I like. You don't have to be too specific. Like you can kind of say kind of vague instructions. So here I asked for the findings in realm. It did not do it. Let me try a different one. The reason it failed is because I didn't have that paper uploaded. I briefly considered editing that part out of this video so I don't seem like I'm just screwing this whole thing up, but I decided to leave it in there. Just a little flavor for you. But I gotta say, in situations where it was my fault, right? So where it was user error, like in this case, I uploaded 2 papers. I thought one of them was Apple's, but it wasn't. I just didn't upload it. Again, the interface is a little clunky. I gotta say that it's a little bit unintuitive. Like it works, but it's a little bit hard to see what's happening. But in each case, I was able to tell that there's something wrong. Like here, this was obviously wrong because it restated an earlier response. In this one, it just said there's no mention. But the point being is when you make a mistake, it is obvious that the response is incorrect. Like you're not going to get tricked into thinking that that's the correct response. Like it's pretty good about that. And here's the final response with the paper uploaded. And again, I have to give it an A+ because it captures the essence of that entire paper, right? So here's that paper. It's 15 pages, right? And it nails the very essence of that paper in just the first bullet point. That realm outperforms previous approaches, performs similarly to the latest GPT-4, despite being a much lighter and faster model. I mean, that is a 1-sentence summary of that whole paper summed up in just the tightest format possible. So this is very, very useful. I'm curious if it's able to read something like this. So this is kind of like the main result from this paper, right? So it's kind of complicated, right? If you don't know what this paper is about, this might seem like a whole bunch of jumbled nonsense, but let's see if it can understand what's happening here. So I'll start in realm. What were the models tested and what were they tested on? So this, if I gave you this paper and I asked you that question, like what models were tested and what were they tested on, you would not be able to quickly figure this out just from reading the abstract, right? You could have figured out that yes, it'd be GPT-4 and it's a much smaller model. But in order to understand that second question, you kind of had to dig deeper. It's nowhere does it have a simple answer. Even if you found this table, which is the results, you still had to go back to figure out what these things at the top mean, what is Mars, etc. So let's try that. So that took, 10 seconds or maybe a little bit more, but I'm kind of blown away. I am very impressed with this thing. So yes, so it nails the role models, right? The 80 million, 250, 1 billion, 3 billion. So that's correct. And the models were tested on conversational data set, synthetic on-screen, and conversational data set pertaining to a held out domain. So these are just sort of abbreviations for those, but you have to read this to understand what each of those means. So you can't just look at here. You have to read and understand this. Now let's ask it, what was it tested against? So what models was Realm tested against? This is a great response. And so was this. I mean, this is exactly right. Let's give it something extra hard. So as you can see here on the conversational data set, GPT-4 got 97. Realm 80 million got 96.7. The point being that was the only one that did less than GPT-4. The rest of them beat GPT-4. So let's see if I can read this table, understand what it means. Which of the Realm models beat GPT-4 on the conversational data set? if it gets this, I'm going to be impressed. All right, so it didn't get that, which, you know what? Honestly, that was, I didn't expect it to. That required you have to have like a vision model for that or something beyond just its ability to read. So I did not expect it to, but let's see if it's at least able to understand what score it got. What score did GPT-4 get on the conversational data set? So it answered something that doesn't really make sense because it found something similar in a different source. So I'm by default just selecting all the sources, so it's looking through all of them. But let me turn that off and let me just look at the one source that we're looking at, which is this one. And let me try that again. So as you can see here, it tells you how many sources you have selected. So by default, previously, I've just done all of them at the same time. But if you're trying to dig deeper on one particular source, on one particular PDF, it might make sense to just select that one. GPT-4 scored 97 for the conversational data set. Wow, it nailed it because it said 97.0%, which that number appears only once in this file as far as I can tell, 97.0, and appears here, and it picked up on it. All right, so that's NotebookLM. After testing it out, I gotta say I'm very impressed. It's still experimental. There's a bit of clunkiness. There's a bit of issues. It's not polished. But with that said, it seems very, very powerful. As long as you can turn whatever documentation you need into either a PDF, or you can copy and paste text into it, or use a text file, or anything that's in Google Drive. Well, specifically the docs. You can't do sheets, so you can't do Excel sheets or whatever they're called, but you can do document, like the Word style kind of documents. You can upload it there. You can put quite a bit of stuff in there and then ask it questions, have it find specific things in it. It gives you specific citations. And as far as I can tell, out of all the things that I've tried, this does it the best. It's the most accurate. It's the fastest. The context window, its ability to search through stuff seems really good. It finds those needle in the haystack type of answers where it's, 155 page. This thing it's a dense document. I mean, if I scroll through, you can see there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of words and images and all sorts of stuff. And there's 155 pages. So the fact that it's able to find the specific problems that I'm trying to find is pretty impressive. So if you're looking to do something like this to kind of build that quote unquote second brain, somewhere where you can just store your information, all your notes, and be able to rapidly access them, kind of ask questions about it, I got to say, this thing looks very, very promising, which of course means that I'm going to start using it quite extensively for organizing the various information that I need. And eventually I will fall in love with it, put my entire digital life, my entire second brain in the hands of Google, at which point, of course, it will cancel the whole thing, at which point it will be added to the Google graveyard of various projects that was killed by Google. They killed Google Podcasts 2 days ago? No, you're kidding me. This has to be an April Fool's joke. No, they killed it. They killed Google Podcast. Guess which podcast app I've been using? Just take a wild guess. All right, Google, I'm ready to be heard again. And for you, dear listener, what do you think about something like this? Are you looking to build a second brain to organize all of the various pieces of information that kind of bombard us day to day? Would a tool like this be useful to you? If you've tried NotebookLM, let me know. If you haven't, it's free. I'll put the links in the show notes. Check it out. If you have a Google account, it's pretty seamless. You just click login. If you're logged into Google, it just takes you there automatically. And so far, if you ignore the aesthetics and the little experimental things here and there, like the bugs, in terms of just sheer power of its ability to comb through that data through the text, this is the fastest, the most accurate, the best that I've seen so far. So definitely could be very useful. With that said, my name is Wes Roth, and thank you for watching.